What's up? Welcome in. What a crazy couple days it has been. And technically, the new league year hasn't even begun. Johnsy, you surviving?
We're fine. That's right. That big trade.
Yeah.
Number 1 to number 9. DJ Moore coming to town. Not quite official. But if you look at the salary cap pages, Spoke Track or Over the Cap, he's there. Adam, he's there.
No, these things are real. They've definitely happened.
To the point where the Bears' own website is citing ESPN, NFL Network, and various other reports. Sorry, Larry Mayer. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a tough position to be in. But follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Hopefully you already are. And you've been following along with all the news and analysis as it has been breaking. We got a busy show for you today. Joe Buscaglia, who's been on the podcast before from Buffalo, jumping on to tell us about Tremaine Edmunds. We'll also hear from Zach Berman, who as well, he's been on the show before. From Philly, he will tell us about T.J. Edwards. We'll try to figure out where the linebacker pieces are going to fall. And also, Northwestern's Pro Day was today.
Was it like old times, Adam Hoge?
I didn't see you there, Johns. It was weird.
You and Fitz? I was not there. I was home. I'm not the former sideline reporter. You almost have to go by like rule.
I do, and I do love going there because there's so many people I enjoy talking to there and friendly with, and try to learn as. And plus, it helps to share that they have 4 draftable players and 2 that could go in the first 2 rounds, including 1 in the top 10. So a lot of interesting stuff. Plus, pretty much every member of the Bears organization was there today too.
Yeah, let's go over that. So Ryan Poles.
Yeah.
Is that Jeff King that I see with him?
Yes.
Matt Eberflus.
I mean, really the
Chris
entire
Morgan.
Chris Morgan, John Hoke. Those were the main 2 coaches that were there because like Chris Morgan worked out Skoronski. Oh, I blanked out his name for a second. Yeah, it's like so.
Don't do that.
I know. I mean, essentially what happened today was the Bears ran the pro day. Their scouting staff, their coaches, they ran everything. And so they got there up close. And then meanwhile, Flus and Poles were just sort of watching, talking to Fitz and hanging out and getting insight.
Travis Smith, defensive line coach?
Yes. Yes, I believe he was also running the defensive line drill with Adetomo Adebore, who could be a legitimate target at 3 technique for the Bears.
So can we pencil him in for the second round and Skoronski in at number 9?
Yes, that would be a classic Adam Jahns mock draft.
But it's not far-fetched, Adam Hoge.
Don't forget about Cam Mitchell from Bolingbrook, somewhere in the late rounds. I forgot that Cam Mitchell picked off Justin Fields in the Big Ten championship game a couple years ago. He reminded me of that, and then as he explained it, or he took me through the play, I was like, oh yeah, that happened right in front of me. I remember now. It's a really nice play. So yeah, it was fun being there today.
You're making fun of me for the Skoronski pick, but like,
I'm not making fun of
you. Would you do it at number 9?
I just know how much you love Chicago high school football, so it's just funny. No, you're talking about 2 guys
but I wouldn't mock a guy if it wasn't worth the pick. Mock draft the guy, not mock.
Yeah, mock draft the guy. You would mock the guy if he was not worth the pick. I like him. I have the same reaction to this arm length stuff that Fitz did today when he was asked about it, which is to laugh. Because the guy's film just says he's a left tackle. And all these people who have never really watched him play are like, his arms are short. And I don't think that's what's happening with NFL teams. Now, will NFL teams knock him down a little bit on their board? Because of that, maybe they have Paris Johnson first because of that. But the reality is you're talking about a guy who's faced a lot of really good rushers, some guys who are going to get drafted in the first round this year too, who has been a stud at left tackle from the moment he got there at Northwestern. And it's just sometimes you got to trust the tape. Now, what's interesting to me, Johns, is between Skoronski and Adebawore. They're sort of polar opposites when it comes to that exact thing I just talked about, which is with Skoronski, it's trust the tape. This is some stuff I learned today, actually, just from being there. Teams are a little torn on what to do with Adetomo Adebawore because he apparently, like, from the time Northwestern season ended, a lot of teams had him as an undrafted free agent. And then all of a sudden he shows up at the Senior Bowl and looks awesome. And then he goes to the combine and he sets records. And that's like, well, wait a minute. What do we do with this? And so I think a lot of teams there today were very interested to talk to him and try to figure this out because that's a tough thing to figure out if the tape doesn't really back up what he's done since the season ended.
It's a case where the tape doesn't match the testing. So here's my question for you, Mr. Northwestern.
Yeah.
Did he play, I don't want to say out of position, but was he doing things where his roles at Northwestern on that defense, on that line, different than what he would project as in the NFL?
I think so. And here's the answer to that question because I've been asked that a lot. It's Northwestern had to play him all over the line, sort of out of necessity, especially the last two seasons. And then and part of the reason why you do that as a defensive coordinator is to try to create better matchups. Because if let's just say he's our 3 technique, we're going to put him here, but we don't have a lot of talent around him. Well, they're just going to double him the whole game, right? So you got to move him around to try to get him better matchups. And I don't know at the end of the day if that ends up putting the best tape together because he's still getting the most focus wherever he's lining up. And so I think the gamble that teams need to make here with him is, okay, but we know he can test off the charts, and we think if we just put him at 3 technique and let him be that, he can excel and continue to grow. Now, the makeup for both of these kids is outstanding. Skoronski and Adebawore, they're the type of, they're going to check whatever Bears character boxes they need to check. That's not even going to be a question. And one interesting thing I didn't know till today is Adetomo is actually finishing his degree right now while all this pre-draft stuff's going on.
What's he getting it in?
Now, that's a question I didn't follow up and ask. This is why you should have been there. Where were you? I can probably find that up on Northwestern's website. But I was just impressed that he had 1 quarter left to go, and he's still working on that degree to finish it during all the draft stuff. Because most guys are just like, I'm focused on getting drafted. And so, there's no character concerns with either one of those guys.
Well, I think the question for him and for the Bears is like, how far does he rise? Right? Does he sneak into the early second round? Because right now you're the Bears. You have 3 picks. If you count the 64th, which is essentially a second rounder.
Mm-hmm.
3 picks in a 12-pick range where you could take a guy like that, where you would probably want a guy like that, or do you package them to move up to get your future 3 technique because you know how important it is to your defense?
So before today, I would have said I would have thought he would have been gone by 53.
53.
53. But hearing some of the information I got today, just how teams weren't as high on him, just a few months ago, tells me that maybe he's still a 3rd round pick, and maybe this happens. Like, guys end up getting overhyped because of what they do in January and February, and you still got to come back to the full grade, which is what these teams do and why they put so much effort into it. So, it's a tough question.
If I'm the Bears and he's still there, number 64, your whatever have you pick, your second round, 3rd rounder.
Well, they have like 3 picks right around there. Yeah.
Yes, they have 3 picks in a 12-pick range.
Yeah. It's a tough one to figure out, though. But yeah, so it was fun at Northwestern's Pro Day, especially considering all the noise the Bears made yesterday.
You like watching them as we get into the free agency discussion here? Were you like keeping an eye on them? Are they on the phone? Any moves coming?
Yeah, well, Flus ran out of there at one point, and I was like, what's happening? What's happening? Turned out he was just going to the Ed Block Courage Award. which also explained why he was out. He outdressed every single person there.
Yeah, when I saw the pictures there, I'm like, oh, he's really dressed up for this.
Yeah, I was impressed. I can't find his major. I was looking for his major on
his bio page.
Yeah, usually they put that on here, unless I'm just not seeing it. But really smart kid. You know, his brother, Adetomo's brother, is a 5-star recruit at Oklahoma right now.
Really?
Yeah, he just started there with the spring semester, joining spring practice. So a lot of athleticism in that family. All right, should we talk about the free agents?
Let's get it.
I know people are waiting on that. So we'll start with this. How about T.J. Edwards, the first move the Bears made just minutes after the clock started?
Was it the first soon-to-be signing announced? I think it was.
It may have been. It may have been the first signing. You're talking about in the entire league?
Yeah. I think it was the first one to come out.
You might be right.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. T.J. Edwards, Zach Berman does a great job covering the Eagles. And we're bringing him in now to talk about the new Bears linebacker and trying to figure out where he's going to play. Zach Berman. All right, let's bring in our guy, Zach Berman, who covers the Eagles for The Athletic. You should already be following him on Twitter, hopefully at ZBerm. But if you're not, that's where you go. What's up, Zach? Thanks for jumping on with us.
Absolutely. A lot less busy than you guys. The Eagles are only losing players. The Bears seem to be adding one every minute.
Well, that's what happens when you have that's what happens when you're the worst team in the league.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I guess that's the whole point of the salary cap situation, right? The good teams are gonna have to shed some players, but so that's where we'll start, Zach, because it's always like the first question I think we have to ask anytime any team signs a free agent is, why is that player available? And in the case of T.J. Edwards, I think he's one of the rare cases of just a young player that probably overperformed his contract and is on a team that has to make some tough decisions right now, and certainly for what the Bears I think paid for him. Well, you tell us, what did you think about it? Because I think the view here in Chicago is, okay, this one makes sense.
Yeah, that was a factor, what you said, the fact that the Eagles have a lot of players that they're paying and they can't keep all these free agents. Another part of it's the position that TJ Edwards plays. The Eagles don't pay linebackers. It's just kind of a philosophical organizational thing that they have, and it's been that way now for almost 2 decades. And so TJ is the type of player that the Eagles would love to keep, in the sense that he's homegrown. He came as an undrafted player, was a special teams guy, was a reserve, became a starter, respected in the locker room, kind of does everything the right way. But the Eagles aren't going to pay money for a linebacker relative to a defensive lineman or a corner. So the contract was actually reasonable for his ability. It's just where the Eagles are putting their money right now, that's not the position.
So what are the Bears getting in Edwards? He led the Eagles last year in tackles. I'm sure they like that, but like on the field, the nuance of the game, what are the Bears getting in Edwards?
They're getting like a really smart linebacker who knows where to be, who can play the run, who can play the pass, who can do everything you want except run really fast, right? Like that's the best way I can explain it. He doesn't have track speed. You're sacrificing some athleticism when he's on the field. But the other way I can explain it is, for the past 3 years, the Eagles tried to sign guys to play over him, or tried to draft guys to play over him, and TJ was better than everyone they brought in. Whether it was a 3rd-round pick, whether it was a free agent, it didn't matter. TJ Edwards outplayed all those guys. It's not a coincidence that basically at the end of every season, TJ Edwards has been starting. And it got to the point where in 2021, the Eagles were like, all right, he's our starter, right? He deserves to be on the field. And that's why last season he was on the field throughout the year. He was a starter week 1 to the Super Bowl, and it was the best defense they had in his 4 years here. I don't think that's a coincidence. He'll be in the right spot. He was a Mike linebacker for the Eagles. I imagine after signing Edmunds, he'll be more of a Will in Chicago. You guys know that better than I do. But he can defend the pass. He can make plays on the ball. He can do a lot of things that you like. but he's just he's not fast. He's not a track guy.
So how does he make up for that? Sorry, Adam. Like, how does he make up for that? Is it his instincts? Is it his study habits? Is it just the
instincts
playing behind a great defensive line? Okay, go ahead.
I would say all of the above. I've spoken to coaches in the past who say you can have a 4.4 guy, and if he's a tick slower in the mind, then TJ is going to get there faster. And we have seen that. I mean they had a 3rd round pick a few years ago, Davion Taylor, who just a gifted athlete in terms of how quickly he runs, but he didn't process it on the field as quickly as TJ, and that's why TJ played over him. So I think he compensates for it by knowing where to be. And I know you wrote about this, Adam. There's a lot of similarities between him and Jack Sanborn in terms of like the way they play, not just their high school coach, but in terms and not just their college, but in terms of the way they play on the field. They're both smart, cerebral players.
Well, and that's the interesting dynamic of what you were talking about earlier, how the Eagles are trying to sign guys to basically start over Edwards, and he kept proving them wrong. It almost feels like that's what's happening here with them signing Edwards to play over Sanborn, who I think all penciled in as a starter. I guess he'll still technically be the starting Sam, but let's get back to where he's going to play, because I think you're right with what you said earlier. I think it's going to be Tremaine Edmunds in the middle with TJ Edwards at the will. From what you know and from what you've seen, did he move around within the Eagles scheme? What do you think he can make that transition without that top 4.4 speed that you're talking about?
I think he can play the will. Yeah, I mean he has. I guess to answer your question, over the past few years, he has moved around because they've had a handful of different linebackers on the field. But I think he can play that. I think him playing the Sam, I probably wouldn't do that. And again, I don't know the the Chicago defense as well as you guys do, but I think he can play both linebacker spots. He's smart enough, quick enough. I mean, he's not a bad athlete. He's not a 4.4 guy. He was a 4.7 guy or thereabouts coming out of Wisconsin.
How did he get better over 4 years? Like, how did he go from, like, I guess, where did you see the progress the most to go from this undrafted guy to now taking starting reps to being your starter for an entire year who doesn't leave the field?
Yeah, so part of it, I mean, he would tell you he's gotten quicker, and you know his body's gotten better. I frankly think he was ready to play from the time he got here, which you don't usually say for an undrafted player. But the fact that he was undrafted, and in that first training camp, you could see this guy's better than some of the guys they already have, and he got better just by playing. His instincts were better. You know, I talked to their linebackers coach last year, who said that kind of the next step for him was more plays on the ball. He had at Wisconsin, I think 7 interceptions or thereabouts. So more plays on the ball is something that they thought he could make, and that comes, you know, with knowing where it's going, with the instincts. But yeah, I think just more experience. That's where he got better more than anything else.
So where do the Eagles go from here? I mean, they're losing guys. Hargrave's out. I mean, lose the Super Bowl, and now they're kind of in a tough spot. But I don't think anyone's really expecting the Eagles to fall off too much. Just how have the I guess what's the mood in Philly right now about losing these guys?
Well, Howie Roseman did his best to prepare everyone for this. Howie was saying they have all these free agents and they're not going to be able to keep them. That's been the talking point all the way through. Now, I mean, they've lost Hargrave. They obviously lost T.J. Edwards. They lost Marcus Epps. There's going to be, there's going to be more guys coming through here, and it's just the reality of their situation. They have most of their offensive players locked up, and I think that's a big part of the optimism. But where they go is draft and develop. You know, the same way they got T.J. Edwards, the same way they got Marcus Epps. Marcus Epps was actually a waiver claim, and T.J. Edwards was an undrafted player. But point being that there's Nakobe Dean takes over as a starting linebacker for the Eagles. They have 4 picks in the top 100 this year. The Eagles are expecting 4 comp picks next year, could have as many as 12 picks overall. So really, once they pay Jalen Hurts, they're going to have a lot of off seasons like this where they don't have big money to spend in free agency, and they're going to have to draft and develop well.
T.J. Edwards is thriving as the Eagles' defensive signal caller. That's the headline of your story on him from December. Like off the field, personality-wise, I know he loves being home in Chicago. I think he already did an interview on 670 The Score, like without a deal being signed like yesterday. So I get that excitement, but personality, energy, like what type of player, personality-wise, are they getting in T.J. Edwards?
Oh yeah, you're getting a guy who can be a defensive leader for your team. Gets along with players throughout the locker room. Was used to being, I mean, he was a top player on a Wisconsin team that had T.J. Watt and other high-profile players. So this is nothing new for him. And it was probably being like the undrafted guy was probably more uncharacteristic for him, right? Having to kind of work his way into that leadership role. But he was respected in the locker room, and you said it. He loves Chicago. It's his hometown. Grew up going to Bears games. His dad texted me a photo of him in a Devin Hester jersey, and he's waiting in line to talk to Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs. And he won't need to put House Hall into his Google Maps, right? He'll know exactly where to go. So he'll fit right in. I mean, on a personal level, it's a good fit for him because it's just a natural match.
Yeah, I mean, 9 times out of 10, I always say that follow the money in free agency, but this really does kind of sort of feel like one where he wanted to come home. He wanted to be a Bear. And, maybe it was the most money in the end anyway, but it gives you those vibes. Zach, thank you so much for jumping on with us. We know you're busy with free agency going on and everything. So we want to make sure everyone's following you at ZBerm and always appreciate the insight.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Hey, if you're like me, you hate the hassle of trying to figure out what to wear. Who has time for that? I need clothes that are versatile, that I can wear on my shows, but also wear when I get home or out to dinner with my wife. And that's where Rhone comes in, because men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. They have the Commuter Collection, which is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible set of products known to man. And here's why. Because Rhone helps you get ready for any occasion with the Commuter Collection, offering the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos. You never have to worry about what to wear when you have the Rhone Commuter Collection. The comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to your work, or hey, even 18 holes of golf, which is coming up here, golf season in Chicago. It'll be here next week, basically, and then go away for another month, but then, come back all summer, and that'll be nice. It's time to feel confident without the hassle. With Rhone's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. It's that easy. I have a pair of pants from Rhone. I have a shirt that I love to wear. And it's true. I mean, if they're even slightly wrinkled, you just wear them for a little bit and the wrinkles are gone. The Commuter Collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/Adam and use promo code Adam to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/Adam. Use code Adam. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Upgrade your closet with Rhone and use Adam to save 20% off at Rhone.com/Adam. Hey, by now you probably know our next partner, and it's a really cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. I'm sure you'll agree that most of us are not huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning. But with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all of those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution, and you'll really enjoy getting your daily vitamins. So what is this stuff? With 1 scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. all of those things. Right now is the time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially as we head into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Adams. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Adams, plural, to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I appreciate Zach Berman jumping on with us. Actually, there was some news that was breaking towards the end of that, so we had to let him go. Looks like the Eagles are signing Rashad Penny. That's how
it works, though. Yeah, that's how free agency works. I don't know where you were when the Bears agreed to terms with Tremaine Edmunds, but I was in the school parking lot waiting for my kid to get out of school. That's usually how it works for Hoge Jahns.
I was trying to leave CHGO to get home, but I hadn't left the room yet, and then I ended up being there for another extra hour and a half because I wasn't fast enough leaving. Otherwise, I would have been in the car coming home.
A new linebacker to a deal that big changes a few things.
Yeah. So that's probably the next guy we should talk about, from T.J. Edwards to Tremaine Edmunds. We bring in our guy, Joe Buscaglia, who has been on the podcast many times and can break it all down on Tremaine. Now, full disclosure, you talked to him earlier because I was delayed at Northwestern's Pro Day and wasn't quite home yet because, as you can already figure out in this podcast, everybody's busy this week. Busy enough, I was surprised that many members of the Bears organization were even at Pro Day today. But, there's certain things that got to be done, and you got to cram it in a small schedule. So anyway, Johns took care of talking to Joe, and here was the conversation from a little bit earlier.
All right, let's get to Joe Buscaglia. You've heard him here before, longtime friend of the show. Great guy to hang out with in Indianapolis too. Joe, what's going on?
Not too much, Adam. Thanks for having me. I feel, what is this, like my 4th or 5th appearance on the show? I feel like I feel like a wily vet at this point. We might have to
start paying you. So we'll see you in a year. First question for you. Forget Tremaine Edmunds for a second.
Sure.
We've talked about this before in pairing, Justin Fields with like a veteran receiver. You've seen it play out there in Buffalo with Stephon Diggs. What was your reaction with the Bears' big trade with the Panthers for DJ Moore?
Oh, I really liked the acquisition of DJ Moore for him specifically because it's so, and now they're surrounding him with talent, which is, I know, is something you guys talked about forever last year because what they were trotting out at receiver, especially heading into that Bills game. I remember looking at the roster sheet. I'm like, oh God, that's what's happening. And they even had Claypool at that point. So yeah, getting DJ Moore as like a separator, has kind of had to deal with some crappy quarterback play throughout the past several years. And now he gets a chance with a guy who seems to be like burgeoning. Now it really just depends if the Bears can kind of finish the job and, find the right offensive line pieces to put in front of him. But yeah, the thing I liked most about it was that they are not allowing any more excuses for Justin Fields. It is put up or shut up time for him in his 3rd year, and they've invested their faith in him. They punted on drafting a quarterback. So yeah, I really like the aggressiveness of that move to do that and to maximize potentially their return in the process.
What should we look for? Maybe come camp. Like you covered Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Like, what should we look for when these two are on the field together come OTAs, come training camp, where that chemistry is in a good place almost immediately? What did you see early on with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen?
It's interesting. The year that they traded for Stephon Diggs was the COVID year. And so they really didn't have much in-person stuff with them. And they actually said that they kind of found a rhythm playing video games together and trying to like, get a little bit on the same page. I think it was Call of Duty, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's how they kind of grew to understand one another. And then eventually, once they physically were able to throw and catch passes with one another, it just kind of clicked right away for those guys. But definitely the meshing of personality has to be the first and foremost. And because, receivers, obviously they want the ball, but they also want to win more than anything. And if you are putting your team in the right position to have some success, then that trumps stats, or at least it does for Stefon Diggs, which is part of the reason why he was a little frustrated at the end of this season because of how flat they played. But that being said, that early chemistry was apparent between those two. There really was not much of a waiting game for them. I mean, Stefon Diggs' first game just really came out racing, and that was the year that the Bills' offense became the Bills' offense. And so I don't know if that is fair to expect, especially because Josh Allen was a bit more of an accomplished passer at that point in his career than where Justin Fields is now. But all the same, establishing that rapport with your number one quickly is going to be so vital for him to get the most out of it and to try and get them actually on the right trend to become actual winners rather than just thought winners.
If you're watching or listening, this is your first time hearing Joe, I don't know what's wrong with you. He's been on this show a few times. We're kidding off the top here, but he's our Bills writer at The Athletic. Be sure to check out his stuff. Follow him on Twitter at Joe Buscaglia. Got that right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't even bother spelling it because it's a stupid Italian spelling. There's a silent G in there. Like I get embarrassed about like, oh, so you say it Buscaglia, right? No, actually, I have to correct everyone and say, no, the G is silent because I'm an idiot. But yeah, I'm
every time you're
impressed.
on, I was the one this time. Usually it's Hoge, for the correct pronunciation. Buscaglia.
You got it.
We got it. I see we're
It's
pros
done.
at it.
It's in the bag.
All right, Tremaine Edmunds.
Mm-hmm.
What are the Bears getting in this linebacker?
Yeah, Tremaine Edmunds is someone that I think right off the top is pretty misunderstood in what he does on a game-to-game basis. There was a lot of, I'm sure you probably saw a bit of the reaction from Bills fans like, good, I'm glad he's gone. But that's not how it was felt in the building with the Bills. They have always been huge supporters of his talent and everything that he brought to their team. And I thought it was especially apparent. And I'm actually surprised because, for the first 4 years of Edmunds' career, there was this constant, fatigue from Bills fans about hearing about Edmunds' potential, but yet he didn't deliver interceptions or what they deemed to be game-changing plays. But the Bills were never frustrated with that by any bit. And they always saw that he was already an impact player, just doing it in more subtle ways than what you see, on broadcast copy. And I was surprised that fans were kind of out on him this year because it seemed like that kind of started to shift a little bit in 2022. People started to realize the importance of Edmunds, and especially when he had to miss some time this season, how different the Bills defense was without him, I think was especially jaw-dropping for a lot of people. But what he is, 6'5", 250 pounds, his ability to impact throws and passing plays without the pass going anywhere near him is not really anything that you can find anywhere else. His length is ridiculous. I know someone in the Bills organization called him a condor at one point. Like the guy is just, he's so difficult to throw over in zone defense. And he also has the athleticism and the fluidity to really stick with a lot of tight ends and running backs and to change direction on the drop of a hat to get back to where he needs to be in zone. He's developed a lot as a blitzer throughout his time. His run defending is probably probably where he lacks the most, But in today's NFL, you want pass coverage. And even that he has gotten better at. Tackles for loss have improved, and his ability to read a play and know where it's going and then having the speed to get there has also improved. The block shedding is probably his biggest weakness at this point, but that has even improved to where it was as a rookie. So all in all, the Bears are getting an absolute top 10, top 5, somewhere between the top 5 and 10 inside linebacker in today's NFL. And it's a heavy price tag, don't get me wrong, but on the field, if you watch the film and you see how many times he impacts the play, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I can see it. But I just will warn Bears fans to not take the bait and be like, he's not making interceptions, he's not causing fumbles, he's not doing any of those things. He just does things a lot more subtly, and it goes noticed by NFL types, and kind of goes under the radar by those that don't, put the glasses on and really watch the film on him.
So the debate in Chicago right now is he the Mike? Is he the Will? There's been a lot of focus on the Will because that was the spot Roquan Smith was supposed to fill. Didn't fill it well enough. And now you have Tremaine Edmunds, same draft class, just 10 picks after him, something like that. Same draft year. And now he's getting the big contract that Roquan Smith didn't get from the Bears. Eventually got a bigger one from the Ravens. I'm curious, how did take us through the Bills linebackers, like how they played off each other, their roles, especially with Matt Milano, him and Edmunds.
Yeah, they often say it's interchangeable, but anytime you ask Sean McDermott about it, they always are very eager to delineate between their outside linebacker and their middle linebacker. The Bills have basically over the last 2 years have punted on having a third linebacker on the field at all times. They've just gone nickel as their base. Basically, anytime that a team doesn't put 3 tight ends and a fullback on the field to go up against them. And so basically Edmunds has been the middle linebacker in Buffalo from the first day they gave him his helmet. And he was taken every single snap in practice. There was never any debate as to who would be starting right there from his rookie season, right through the end of 2022. Occasionally he would shift into Milano's responsibilities if there was some late motion or something like that. But more often than not, it was Edmunds being the guy in the middle, their captain on defense, their overall leader. Like you even see one of the Bills defenders on Twitter after he signed his deal, Daquan Jones, tweeted at Tremaine Edmunds and said, "Thanks for the leadership, big dog," or whatever the heck he called him. So he was. And he kind of grew into that leadership role. When he first came to Buffalo, kind of a quieter guy, found his voice as the years went along. Still a quiet guy. He's not going to say too much in front of a camera or in front of a microphone or anything like that. But yeah, they entrusted him with a lot of responsibilities. It's a role in a defense that was made famous by Luke Kuechly. And they tasked him with that role for quite a long time, and they were very impressed by it. And if the money was right and they weren't in such cap trouble, I'm sure they would have loved to have kept him. But that $18 million per year was just a little bit too rich for their blood for where they are as a franchise right now, and that's ultimately why they had to pass on bringing him back.
Yeah, I was going to ask you where the Bills are organizationally. Because I think some of these good teams, like look at the Eagles, the Bears got T.J. Edwards as well, their linebacker. Some of these better teams seem to be having some cap problems. So let me pivot there because I love the McDermott comparison. Because now you're bringing it back to Ron Rivera, which brings it back to the Bears and Lovie Smith because Rivera was here. That big guy down the middle who can run down the seam. We picture Brian Urlacher doing that, right? Like having those big long arms. So Edmunds can deliver that. How did he maybe get better this season? Can we safely say that 2022 was his best year? Was it the pass coverage? Was it getting in those throwing lanes? Like how did he become this valuable on the free agent market, I should say?
Well, I think the Roquan Smith deal definitely helped some things in getting him $18 million a year. I think it's probably a combination of of his age because he's still only turning 25. And this is a fact that elicits an eye roll from every single Bills fan, because every time Edmunds was brought up, they'd be like, oh my God, what is he, like 20 years old now? Or
25, right? He's not even 26.
I know he's turning 25 on May 2nd. And so he's got plenty of years left in his prime. So I think that probably contributed to it. And where he improved the most, I felt, from this past year was his overall decisiveness against the run. And in pass coverage, he's always been rock solid, and he has always been a headache to throw over for any quarterback that's trying to go over the middle against him. I mean, I remember back in, I think it was 2021, I did this story, kind of reflecting on why the fan, I guess, the overall fan concept of him was so far different from what the Bills felt about him. And just talking with people inside the organization, like Leslie Frazier, saying, yeah, I don't get it. And my peers around the league all say the same thing about Tremaine, that he's just this tremendously talented player. And Josh Allen, even in that story, was like, it is so difficult to throw over him. It is an outright headache to do it. And I feel like that should be taken with a lot of weight, because he is a successful quarterback in the league, and has to go up against Tremaine Edmunds every single day, or at least he had to for 5 years. So that ability has been rock solid. But I will say where he has grown the most, like I said, run defending, getting off blocks a bit better, using his hands in getting off blocks a bit better was a big teaching point for him throughout his 5 years in Buffalo. And then on top of that, I think just being more decisive and getting to the line of scrimmage and creating more tackle for losses situations, or even just, siphoning the runner somewhere else because of his read initially on the play, that has grown with time. So yeah, he's definitely ascending, and I do think there's a bit more room to grow. I don't know how much, but I think there could be one of these seasons where he is around the ball quite a bit. And I would not be shocked if one of these years he pops with like a 4 or 5 interception season.
Joe, thank you as always. Maybe we'll bug you again in the summer when we see Justin Fields throw his first touchdown pass to DJ Moore. We need more comparisons.
Yeah,
all the comparisons to Josh Allen, the better.
I'll be looking forward to that. Justin Fields is one of the most intriguing quarterbacks in the league to me, and I'll be keeping a close eye.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks,
Adam. It's always great catching up with Joe. Love hanging out with him at the Combine. I'm curious for your thoughts on how they're going to sort out this linebacker stuff, because Joe is convinced that Tremaine Edmunds is the Bears' Mike. I think I'm with that now. Zach is convinced that T.J. Edwards can successfully fill that weak side role, that will. I don't know if we're just obsessing over this too much, but your thoughts on Edmunds being the Mike, Edwards being the Will. You know how many times I'm going to screw their names up, by the way?
It's tough. They had to sign 2 guys that almost have the same last name. Yeah, I think that's what's going to end up happening here. I think Tremaine Edmunds is going to be the Mike, and I think TJ Edwards is going to be the Will. And I wonder if we've all been somewhat guilty of falling into just maybe overrating the importance of the Will. And I don't even want to say it that way, but we've heard so much about how important of a position that is in Matt Eberflus's defense. And yet we all lived the Lovie Smith era. We all saw in this defense the Mike and the Will, and the Bears had 2 great ones together. But which one was the better one? The first ballot Hall of Famer who played the Mike, who got paid more money. The first ballot Hall of Famer who played the Mike. So,
who's probably showing up on your YouTube video right now with a hair commercial? The Mike. Yeah,
maybe. So I think it's okay. My first reaction yesterday was to sort of follow the money and be like, oh, they're gonna put Tremaine Edmunds at the Will because he's getting the big contract. But really, I think this is how it's going to go with Edmunds at the Mike and Edwards at the Will. you heard a little bit from Zach Berman earlier, but also got some more insight too myself that Edwards has moved around in that defense, and I think we'll be fine there. But it is an interesting situation, and I said this earlier today, and I'll say it again. Like, I just did not wake up yesterday thinking that Jack Sanborn was going to be in a position where he's only playing a third of the snaps, and that's how this thing's played out. But maybe this is a situation like you heard Berman say earlier, where the Eagles kept trying to sign guys to outperform T.J. Edwards, and it just never happened. So maybe that's what life's going to be like for Jack Sanborn.
The comparison or the connection that Joe made between basically Edmunds to McDermott to Ron Rivera, which you can trace back to Lovie Smith, like the Luke Kuechly comparisons, having that uber athlete in the middle with the range and the arms. Maybe they should unretire 54. I'm kidding, of course, but like you could see what appeals to having a guy of the size, of the speed, and just really all of the above in Edmunds and playing the middle, like roaming the middle, and having Edwards being your instinctual player who can read and react on like the weak side. And we are guilty of, like, they're in sub packages so much that really things change on the fly. But if I had to like overanalyze our analysis of the will position, I blame the Bears. I'll blame the Bears. You moved Roquan Smith there, and you made us all focus on it.
Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't fit. You traded him. He's at the Ravens now with $20 million a year. So it's your fault, Matt Eberflus.
Well, and that's I don't know if we're ever going to get a resolution on the Roquan Smith thing, but I always felt like he was going to be better off at the mic in this defense. But that's not the way they roll with it. And, you know, you can't change that now. So he's on the Ravens. And I think the good thing is, like, you just look at it from the business standpoint, the Bears got 2 starters for the price of 1, essentially, and a second-round pick. And I think they're 2 good starters, and I think it's going to be very interesting to watch it all play out. But that's sort of the direction I think it's going to go. And I mean, now they just got to figure out how to keep the blockers off them, because they still need defensive linemen, at least as we're recording this.
Are you saying that DeMarcus Walker is not going to be enough?
I don't think DeMarcus Walker is going to be enough.
Probably not, as Vic Fangio would say. To go over that money real quick, if you want to know what we're talking about.
Probably not.
There it is. Tremaine Edmunds, his cap hit is $14.678 million. T.J. Edwards is $5 million. You heard us mention Roquan Smith being at $20 million a year. So those are the numbers there. You have DJ Moore. There you go. Premium position, $20 million, 0.165 cap hit. Nate Davis, the new starting right guard, at nearly $7 million cap hit. DeMarcus Walker, the aforementioned DeMarcus Walker, with a $6.416 million cap hit. So keeping those books in order. Some of them go up next year, but you still got Justin Fields on his rookie deal in 2024. But for this season, Bears books are still good.
Yeah, plenty of room, and always more to play with if you have to. So, yeah, I mean, you see the flexibility. They're not really in a position where they need to even be cutting veterans. Today, Eddie Jackson was being honored with the Ed Block Courage Award on a different roster at a different time. He may have been a cap casualty. I know there's been some talk about Cody Whitehair. I don't see the need to rush into a decision like that. Another team captain, and just let him loose. The Bears have the flexibility, and I think he's still a valuable player, and I don't think the Bears are going to. I think they're going to keep Cody Whitehair around. So, it's Bears still in a position of strength and power, which Ryan Poles took care of with the trade on Friday, taking advantage of a situation that was gifted to him, and I think it paid off.
I know we got to go here really soon, but at least with Walker, let's not view him as just some right defensive end or left defensive end. If you look at what he did last year with the Titans, he played all over that defensive line for him. Did a lot of different things. I think he might be better off as an inside pass rusher, maybe paired with Justin Jones or a draft pick to be named later if you want different types of pass rush threats out there.
Yeah, and I think there's value to that. At some point they have to get that multiplier. You know, if you're gonna have guys like DeMarcus Walker and Justin Jones out there, and Justin Jones did grade out as a lower end starter for me last year. He was a starter, but you have to have that guy who's more than just a starter, or that blue chip player that multiplies the rest of the line. Otherwise, it's just not going to be dynamic enough.
Yeah,
so
but those players come through the draft.
Yeah.
Most cases not. Like if you're adding them, you're drafting them.
Yeah.
You're not paying what DeMarcus Walker got to be a 10-sack guy. You got rotational money. You got good money for a guy who had a cheap deal last year with the Titans, but he's a rotational piece.
Or even gambling with a contract with like Tremaine Edmunds got, who's a good player, but obviously they didn't view him as, pretty much what I just said, that multiplier, the guy who could do it on his own and make everyone else better. They obviously, or they would have paid him that much money. So it's.
Do you know had more sacks than Tremaine Edmunds last year?
Jaquan Brisker?
No, almost. DeMarcus Walker.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. He had 7. And what, Tremaine Edmunds had 4.5?
I thought it was 6. 6.5? I could be wrong.
See, I already forgot. He's on a different team. I already forgot.
But it's the same thing with like Mike McGlinchey. Like I think that the Nate Davis signing might go down as the Bears' best.
Really?
Yeah. Starting right guard, experienced in zone-heavy schemes, play action stuff coming from the Titans. So that helps almost initially. And you're not paying market-setting prices like the Broncos gave Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah. I think it was smart for the Bears to stay out of that. And I would think that's one thing Poles has done. Set your price, rely on their numbers. It's almost like setting a draft board. And then just stay organized and follow that in free agency. And
stick with it. Like, trust your process.
Right. So, all right. Well, a busy day, and we crammed a lot here into hopefully what was a fun podcast for you guys to listen to. Sorry, it's a little bit later than we normally would have had it out, but there's just a lot going on right now and a lot of different places to be. So we'll be back Thursday with more, and maybe there'll be another move or two, but there'll still be plenty more to break down from these moves as well. So we will we'll have that for you coming up on Thursday. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Read everything at theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns, all of the great work that Kevin Fishbane and Adam Jahns are putting out. And I'll have a new newsletter out to CHGO diehards tomorrow morning. That'll be in your inbox and also available at allchgo.com, which is where you can go to sign up to be a diehard if you're not already. All right, we're out of here. We'll talk to you later in the week.
See ya.